Okay, now I would like to talk about the theory of evolution. Now, I've watched several debates between theists and atheists and read several books. There's that book, The God Delusion, by Richard Dawkins, for example. And in all of the debates that I've seen, inevitably, the theory of evolution comes forth. It's like the center stage in all of these debates. And I always get this profound pain when I listen to these debates because the theists also they're missing the main point, it seems to be, when it comes to evolution. Now, if you don't know, I'm sure you do know if you're watching this video. But the theory of evolution basically goes like this. I agree. I totally agree with what they actually say when they have the evidence, the fossil records and everything else. I'm not disagreeing with evolution. So, for example, take giraffes. Giraffes, they say, and I fully believe this makes perfect sense. I'm sure this is 100% true. They didn't start out as giraffes. They started out as something else, which was, of course, already a living being, a living animal. But in this case, but the giraffes did not start out having the long necks that they have, and the long legs. They have long legs as well. But what happened was, and again, I'm not making fun. I fully believe this. You know, they eat leaves off of trees, and when they were all around eating leaves of trees, and they ran out of leaves, the ones that had the longer necks and the longer legs, they were able to reach the higher leaves that none of the other giraffes could reach. So all the other giraffes died, and the ones with the longer necks and the longer legs survived. And this happened again and again and again over millions of years. And so this kept happening. And by means of incremental advantage, eventually you have these giraffes with way longer necks and way longer legs because they're the ones that survived and passed down their genes to the other giraffes, okay? And this same kind of thing happens again and again in millions and millions of ways all throughout the animal kingdom. And there's also genetic mutation, just random genetic mutation, which gives rise to different attributes. And so over millions and millions of years, given the principle of survival of the fittest, this accounts for the origin of species in animals. That's the final conclusion. This is what really accounts for all the different species of animals that we have. And people who go to university and who are enlightened and well educated, they know these things. And all those naive Christians, they still believe, in Genesis and that God in 6 days created all that is, the animals and the plants and everything else. And they're uneducated is what it is. Okay. Again, I don't believe that God literally created all the living beings and everything in 6 days. I believe in the fossil record and everything else. I believe that thing that happened to the giraffes also happened to many other species, and that does explain things like that when it comes to like having really long necks, like giraffes having really long necks and legs. I believe that. That in no way explains the origin of species, okay? So, what do I mean by life? Again, by life, what we really mean is that which acts for a purpose, okay? So, first of all, what life implies is, first of all, what it consists in. All living things in the world as we know it, they have the power to grow and organically develop, okay? And they have other powers, but even if they didn't have those powers, they would be alive in the sense that they have the power of organic growth and development, okay? And this power to act in this way, like an acorn is, the acorn itself is alive. It could be dormant, but it is really alive. And it has the power to grow into an oak tree, which has organic parts. It has roots for assimilating minerals and water. And if you don't know, that's the purpose of roots. You don't even know what the word roots mean, what it means. But it also has branches and leaves for photosynthesis. Everything that it grows and develops is for a purpose, okay? And that's what I mean by the word life. I mean that which acts for a purpose in at least this way. Animals also act for a purpose. When a predator moves towards a prey, or when a prey moves away from a predator, or when any animal seeks out water as such to quench its thirst, or to chew food, or to swallow food, or to have a digestive system, all the systems that we have, they're all for a purpose. My heart circulates the blood. My lungs inhale and exhale oxygen for the purpose of respiration. My nervous system, my eyes are for seeing. My ears are for hearing. Everything that I have, if you really want to say what the meaning of the word is, you have to refer to the purpose for which it acts, or the powers that it has, which are themselves for some purpose. And if you avoid that, if you avoid the purpose, you can't really say what the thing is or what the word means. Like, you can't really say what a heart is unless you imply or actually explicitly point out that it's for the circulation of blood throughout the body, right? That's what it does. It pumps for the sake of circulation of blood throughout the body. Birds build nests, bees build hives, ants build anthills. Everything that living things do, they do for a purpose. To have the power to act for that purpose, that's what makes a living thing to be the kind of being that it is. So structure is not enough. Let's talk about computers and robots, okay? Some people think that living things are basically like computers and robots, and that, eventually, through evolution or even through technology, through an advance in technology, we can actually create and new kinds of things and stuff. You can't. Let's really think about what a computer and a robot actually do. Everything that a computer and a robot does is reducible entirely to the nature of electrons and the laws of physics. Okay, so I think of a computer or a robot, let's say it's powered by a battery. Again, the battery has charge because of how it is. It has a section where there's way more electrons than protons. It has another section where there's way more protons than electrons. You connect those two sections by means of a conductor, and you will have electric current. Now, that's it. As far as it goes, as far as it comes to movement, causes of change, what really is the agent of change in any computer or robot, what's really acting as the agent of change is the electrons and the protons. They act because of what they are. They act because they have charge and because they're situated in a certain way such that all these other things being done, you have electric current. The electric current is just like, a turbine in a windmill. It spins because of the wind, because of the power of the wind. That turbine causes something else to move, these gears to move. Those gears cause something else. but it's just a chain reaction that's caused by a first moving thing, which is impelled to move because, in this case, of what it is and because of the nature of the battery and the conductor and everything else. A computer and a robot, they don't act as like whole subjects like animals do, or like plants do, or like any living thing does. The thing that is acting is the electrons. Everything else is just being moved. So it's exactly like, a windmill. The wind is the first thing that's moving, and the air is itself not the first agent of change. It's being moved by something else, right? But the wind causes the turbine to move. The turbine causes something else to move. The whole windmill, the whole thing, from beginning to end, is just an assembly of parts. Each of the parts are being moved by something else. The parts aren't causing anything themselves. So that's true of anything that we could possibly put together. And it's true of all non-living things. All non-living things, you have certain fundamental things like electrons and protons and neutrinos and photons and whatnot. But everything else is, whatever it does, is simply reducible to these attributes that electrons and protons and other fundamental particles have on a non-living level. There's no purpose. They can't ever act for a purpose. And they can't do anything else other than attract and be attracted, repel and be repelled, push and be pushed, pull and be pulled, and in general, move from one place to another and cause something else to move from one place or another, or to be connected to one thing or another, or to be separated from one thing or another. That's it. That's all you have on a physical level, okay? So life is something way more than that. And life essentially entails the power to act for a purpose. When you talk about the origin of species, what makes something to be a particular kind of being? Okay, what makes for a new species of animal? Let's go back to carpentry and making different things. If I make a chair, that's a different kind of thing than a bed because it has a different purpose. If I make a bookcase, that's a different kind of thing than a table because it has a different purpose. Okay? A bookshelf that has 5 shelves instead of 3. A bookcase that has 5 shelves instead of 3, or that's 6 feet tall instead of 3 feet tall, or that's 50 pounds in weight instead of 30 pounds or whatever. That doesn't change what it is. That doesn't change the kind of thing that it is. It's still a bookcase if it has the purpose of storing books, right? So what makes for a different kind of thing is a different kind of purpose. So, and as we saw in the last video, when it comes to purposes, a purpose is first of all an idea. Before the real thing exists, or before the purpose is realized, the purpose exists first of all as an idea, which is the object of a mind. That's the only way it can exist. So when it comes to species, you have a new species whenever you have something acting in a new way for a new purpose. Okay, so like the first spider that built the first web, or the first bird that built the first nest, or the first colony of bees working together that built the first hive, or, for that matter, the first prey that ran away from a predator, or the first predator that chased the first prey, or for that matter, the first plant that grew the first leaf, or the first root, or the first whatever action is caused to be by a power, and that action is specified by a particular purpose, that's a new species. So, I mean, the first squirrel that, collected the first nuts and stored them for winter, right? Or the first birds that migrated to the south, whatever it is, a new purpose, an animal that acts for a new purpose, that's the origin of species. And it's simply not reducible to, changes of physical attribute, size and length and shape and all the rest. It's not reducible to that. And it's not reducible to electric current and all the rest. That's non-living stuff. Okay? So for our life, for acting for a purpose, and to have a new species, and by that I mean something that acts for a new kind of purpose or has powers to act that other things did not have. It's not reducible to, like self-movement based on sensation. That's not reducible to powers of organic growth and development. That's what we're talking about. So God had to create all of those things. I'm not saying he intervened, because all of creation is the work of God. He's constantly at work. But when he creates a new species, that's a new act. He did a new thing every time. He created something that acted, that has the power to act for a new purpose. So that's what I have to say about evolution. Thanks for watching.